I am, friend.
Good morning, my friends. TheFreind here. Today we have yet another Towns Overexplained video, and this time we're going to be talking about Johanna. Johanna is a main tank, but she can also serve as an off-lane role / tank if the map permits it. Otherwise, you'll see her exclusively in the main tank role. She is probably one of the most oppressive tanks in the entire game, and every rank bans her on sight for good reason, really. There is very little flaw with Johanna. She can do everything. She can hard engage, she can sustain war, she can initiate, she can peel, she can bully people around, she can soak safely. There really is no downside to Johanna. The only thing maybe is that she possesses little damage. So if you go off by yourself into a team fight, you're not really going to accomplish much. But that's, kind of expected of the tank role. So yeah, that's not even a downside, really. She has nothing but upsides, and honestly, she's not even that difficult to play. She's just unbelievably boring. You just need to find a team that's willing to work with you, and then you'll find her very fun because she provides an ungodly amount of setup. You have mages, you have these carries that demand a little bit of time or demands people to club up together. You pick Johanna. Black hole, so first smash, whatever Orphea's trying to do, Johanna just brings everybody together, locks them down, and basically keeps them rooted for 4 seconds, an entire team, and completely crushes them. It's amazing. Anyhow, let's get into her abilities before we go into the talents, before we go into her builds, and then her preferred heroes to play with. Let's talk about her trait, her defining signature move. Iron Skin activates to instantly grant Johanna a strong 810 shield, which is massive, by the way, for 4 seconds. And whilst the shield is active, she is unstoppable. Wow, this is a powerful trait. Now, generally speaking, CC is king in this game. However, Johanna doesn't really suffer much from it. On command, you just make yourself unstoppable, and you can do whatever it is you want to do. You can initiate into any team. There's no way for them to stop you. You can get away from a situation, they can't stop you. You can soak XP safely and they try to gank you. That's no biggie. Just walk in a straight line, and when they try to use their CC, you see it coming, it's very obvious. Press the button, boom, you're out of there. It is such a good trait and allows you to really bully around the enemy team and get around, really audacious things, because they need a perfect CC chain to kill Johanna, but that's kind of difficult because she has high health to begin with. Aside from that, you really don't have anything to fear so long as your trait is available. Try not to waste it on a frivolous situation. I tend to always trait and then W. It's just a habit of me, even when I'm engaging onto like a single enemy, which is a mistake. You want this ready to go when you want it. You don't want to waste it because the 22-second cooldown is pretty hefty. Granted, it's free. You should use it. Better to use it than not. The huge shield that you absorb damage from is very handy. But the unstoppable component is what you're really after. You don't want to react. You want to more so predict that the enemy team has intent, that they want to kill you, or they want to crowd control you, or they want to get through you to get to your team. That's when you want to be thinking about, okay, now it's the time for our escape. And it's a very generous 4-second duration. You don't need to make a perfect pit stop, trait button. If you press it, they can't CC you after, and it's for 4 seconds. So if you feel like the CC is coming any second, just press it before you see it. It's better that way than to miss the opportunity altogether. Either way, very excellent. Let's talk about her Q. Simple ability, Punish. On an 8-second cooldown, you step forward ever so gently, dealing 113 damage, just a little bit, and then you slow all enemies hit by 60%, which decays over 2 seconds. So for the first half second of the slow, you basically cripple them to nothing, and it's very debilitating, which makes it, if you walk in, it's very predictable for your teammates to realize, okay, you're about to go in, you're going to press your abilities, you're going to slow them down. That's when I use my abilities. And generally speaking, that half second, 6% slow is more than enough to secure a kill. Granted, it's kind of okay, and then once it decays, it's a whatever slow, but really, this gets overpowered with a certain talent at level 4, which really makes this thing super, super good. Another thing to note is it has a 200 arc. Like when she slams everything in front of her, it's not 180. I don't feel like. I feel like it's more so 200 degrees. I'd have to double check the wiki for it. But either way, everything in front of you and a little bit to the sides is going to get hit by Punish. And that's very important to note because you want to make sure it works with your W and with your level 4 talent. Speaking of which, let's get into your W. Condemn. After a second delay, Johanna will pull everything towards her, all enemies, sending them for a quarter of a second and dealing minor amounts of damage. This minor amounts of damage gets tripled against minions and mercenaries, so it gives her pretty good wave clear, actually. Condemn is your initiation tool. Without it, Johanna kind of has trouble getting into a team, but this is how you pull everyone together, and the distance is not to be trifled with. Like, you pull a lot of stuff right next to you, and then now that they're all next to you, you can press Q, because they're all in front of you by now. And if they're not, like let's say they're on all directions, just step aside for a quick second. That quarter-second stun gives you the opportunity to reposition yourself on a more favorable hemisphere, and then you press Q. It should tag everybody. If it doesn't, get a little bit, practice it, it's not too bad. Go in, press W, you pull everybody and stun them, and then immediately reposition yourself to make sure your Q hits a fat one on everybody, and boom, that's the combo, really. You combo this with Iron Skin to make your initiation guaranteed. They can't stop you. You're unstoppable. You go in, you pull everybody, you guarantee the stun. Very oppressive combo, because this is enough to bring people together, and then your team, which might have more powerful forms of crowd control, but requires more setup, like let's say Chaos, Tornado, whatever Kel'Thuzad is doing, maybe got an Imperious. This really makes it absolutely trivial. And then your team can really put down the pain. Shield Glare. Deal minor amounts of damage, and then do a very long range blind. It goes in like a conal shape, and it goes quite the distance. It's a flashlight, basically. And then you blind them for a second and a half. This is an overpowered ability. Now, generally speaking, tanks tend to suffer a lot of percentage health damage. That's what they're really afraid of. It's your Tychus, it's your Vala, it's whatever Zul'jin Greymane's doing. They right-click you, and they deal big percentage damage. But Johanna is one of the few tanks that doesn't really care about that, because she blinds them. And if they're blinded, they can't apply the percentage damage. So in fact, she's more durable than what's on the tin can. Aside from her having obscene amounts of starting health and an obscene Iron Skin to make her basically the tankiest hero in the game, she has a blind to stop focus fire, and that's crazy good. Now, how you use Shield Glare, you're going to be using it for two purposes, really. Well, three purposes, actually. One, you check a bush. It is a very long-range, quick casting ability. It is perfect at checking the fog of war to see if an enemy is hiding somewhere. Two, it's amazing at stalling or dismounting people. It is infuriating because you can't miss the ability, and they try to dismount or get away from Johanna. You just press Shield Glare. It really helps your team if you're able to slow down enemy rotations this way. You do it completely safely. And three, obviously, you want to use it when you're blinding the enemy carrier. In the loading screen of the game, when you pick Johanna, you're going to look at the enemy lineup and figure out who is it that's going to be right-clicking the most. Who is it that has abilities or effects tied to right-clicking. For example, Illidan has both forms. He hits hard, A, and B, his trait reduces the cooldown of his abilities when he right-clicks. When you blind him, he doesn't get cooldown reduction, so he doesn't have abilities, and he doesn't deal damage either, and he's not life-stealing either. So you want to make sure the blind is on him at all times. When a fight begins and he's munching on something, always blind him. Always. And it goes for Illidan, it goes for Tirana, it goes for any right-click carry. Vala, Greymane, Tychus, Zul'jin, anybody that right-clicks. If there isn't a team that does it, okay, then your next best option is to, if your teammate is getting dove upon or you're taking a lot of damage, generally speaking, you're going to be facing a lot of right clicks. That's when you toss out the Shield Glare. Just blind everybody that's trying to hit you. And this gives you a lot of survivability. Right click damage is not to be underestimated. Every hero in this game has a good right click. Well, maybe, except, let's say, Deckard Cain, but for the most part, you're going to be suffering a lot of right-click damage. And blind just saves you 250, 500 health, 1,000 health. Every time you press E, you're saving a lot of health on your team. It might not be on yourself, but it gives you substantial amounts of healing. Because even if you're very far away from your teammate, you can still blind the enemy that's trying to kill them. And it's super effective. Assassins, especially if they're melee, and most ranged assassins have good right-clicks. Shield Glare is just overpowered. So good. So good. Aside from that, if the enemy team doesn't have much right click, then you want to use it for vision checking and dismounting. And there's a few talents that augmented it as well, which you want to work more towards that than just a pure blind. Let's talk about her ultimates. Falling Sword, 50-second cooldown. Johanna leaps in the air for 2 seconds on a pretty big range, by the way. She can click wherever she wants. She'll fly above it for 2 seconds, and she can steer around by moving. And in the air, allies beneath her are unstoppable. And after the 2-second delay, you land, you deal big damage to everybody around you, and you stun them for a quarter second. Good for initiation, good for peeling, and good level 20. This is what Falling Sword is all about. And it also gives her, like, outrageous escape ability. You can't kill Johanna if she has Falling Sword available, because she'll just run away, which is kind of cowardly if you ask me, but it serves as a decent initiation tool. I don't think it's as good as her alternative ultimate, but there is a little bit of use case for it. Say your team is suffering from a Zarya ult or Tyrael Judgment or ETC Mosh Pit. Essentially, there's a big ultimate CC effect, especially if it's AoE. Falling Sword gives Unstoppable on a hero other than the healer. So in a dire event where you need to save your team, Falling Sword can do that for you. And you kind of have to be quick on the draw because there's a small delay attached before you fly into the air and start giving Unstoppable, which makes it not so much a perfect cleanse, it's more so a reactionary cleanse, unless you're a god gamer and you see it coming like half a second too soon. Falling Sword tends to be a little bit late, and I tend not to like it for its defensive aspect. But if you play with a melee-heavy team, say you have a Butcher or an Alarak or a Kerrigan that go in and they're doing their thing, they're going to suffer retaliation. Falling Sword gives them a lot of support. Straight up, you jump above them and you threaten the enemy by, landing on them, dealing the big damage, but you're also giving Unstoppable to your assassin, and that really benefits them because they're not going to get impeded in the process of them trying to kill somebody, which is really good. And the level 20 upgrade makes this a pretty good ability, but aside from that, I don't really play for 20. So you ideally want a strong ultimate to begin with, and then if it gets stronger, all the merrier. But I don't know. I feel so with Falling Sword. If the stun duration were longer, or if they gave back the slow that was initially on this, I think it would be a better initiation ultimate. Because as it stands, her other ultimate is probably better at initiation, which is insane. Blessed Shield. 60-second cooldown. You toss out your shield at a massive 11 range at an extremely fast projectile speed. You stun the first enemy that you hit for a second and a half, and then it bounces to 2 nearby enemies, stunning them for 3/4 of a second and dealing half damage. It prioritizes heroes if possible, so usually the stun is going to hit 3 heroes. This thing is so good. It's a 60-second cooldown. Let me score a kill. It's that easy. It's Judgment, faster. 10 seconds sooner, maybe, you're not shoving them aside, but you're stunning more heroes at the same time, which makes your initiation more groundbreaking, so to say. You toss this out, you approach with Iron Skin, you approach with W and Q, you basically score a kill, and there's really nothing the enemy team can do about it, because you're Johanna and you're unstoppable. Do not have to fear that this is a skill shot. It's so lightning fast, and the cooldown is pretty generous, and even if you miss, it still bounces for a potential stun. You should treat this ability as though it were point and click. The only thing you have to worry about is there something in the way that's going to prevent me from the big 1.5 second stun? If you see an enemy and your team is in position, just stun the guy. It leads to a kill 90% of the time. And it's lightning fast too. Like, the enemy team is not going to have the reaction. They see Johanna meandering, they don't think you're going to toss out the ultimate so brazenly. And that's where they're wrong, and that's when they die. Whereas a Tyrael, takes a second and a half to charge up. They'll be like, oh, it's coming. I better start running away, jump over this wall. The enemy team can't reach me anymore. It's just Tyrael and me. Not Johanna, though. She sees you, she kills you. It's that easy. Blessed Shield is overpowered, and you really should be leveraging the fact that it's an on-click, on-demand kill. No joke. And the bouncing stun is also pretty respected, because when you initiate onto a high priority target, say you see the healer step up a little bit too far, or the ranged assassin, or a high priority target, whoever it might be in the game, you just stun them, and then if it bounces, it typically bounces to other heroes, and then suddenly, when you initiate, everybody's panicking because they realize they're stunned and they need to get away from Johanna now before she gets a big condemn punish combo win. But it's too late. Not only that, since you slow enemies by 60%, and you stun them for a second and a half, you can keep somebody locked down in place for basically 4 seconds. It really does feel like that. And then it's so easy to combo off other ultimates, and then, yeah, what do you know? They're all dead. Alrighty. Johanna has an excellent kit. Generally speaking, she suffers a little bit from her initiation. Yeah, you make yourself unstoppable, and you pull everybody close to you, but if the enemies just run away from you, you can't really get in range. That's her primary problem. This gets solved by her heroics. Either she jumps into the fray with Falling Sword, which puts a little bit of danger into her. I'm not a big fan of that. Or she has the power of Blessed Shield, where she can basically stop somebody on sight. Hey, you got a fast mover, assassin, Zeratul, Zeratul, Genji, Tracer, whoever's moving fast, just Blessed Shield him. Kills him easy. And then it also gives her initiation, where she can toss out the shield from range, and then she can approach, and then toss her other abilities, and boom, you got them killed. Let's talk about her talents. Level 1, Zealous Glare. Gain a second charge on your blind, and it deals 70% more damage. Excellent talents. Just perfect. My goodness. Generally speaking, blinds are overpowered in this game because a lot of it's not just the fact that you're making the enemy not deal damage, it's also reducing other hidden effects that you might not realize at first effect, but when you get blinded, like, it's very debilitating. It's extremely oppressive. You get 2 of them. And like I say, with every other talent Overexplained, whenever there's an opportunity to get a second charge, it in effect reduces the cooldown of your third one by a little bit. So it's not just 1 to 2, it's 1 to 2.5 abilities. Also, you deal extra damage. And this damage threshold is enough to kill minions, it's enough to execute fleeing heroes, it deals good poke damage. Like, you don't want to be spamming it too often because it has a nasty 55 mana cost, it got nerfed, but still, Zealous Glare lets you basically control a team. If there's a Tychus, if there's at least one right clicker, I pick Zealous Glare every game. It's really that good. And there's future talents that synergize with it too. Blinding a whole team for 3 seconds? Come on, you can't get any better than that. Divine Fortress. Basic attacks grant 10 armor for up to 40. It's physical armor, by the way. In Gambit, you also increase your maximum health by 25%. This is a Gambit talent, and Johanna is already specialized towards physical damage in the form of her blind. But Divine Fortress makes you basically impenetrable. Johanna is one of the best Gambit carriers because she rarely if ever dies, so the fact that she gets 25% bonus maximum health is huge. But I still don't like it because Gambits are Gambits and it's kind of gimmicky. Plus, the effect, although nice, I don't know if I like it more than Glare because this is more of a selfish defense. Tanks are not really specialized by the fact that they provide themselves durability. It's more so that they provide CC, peel, crowd control, and defensive options for her whole team. Giving it to yourself is kind of redundant. Johanna is typically the last to die in the battle, so you having that physical armor is whatever. It makes her pretty oppressive in solo lane, though, I have to say. But aside from that, I don't pick it too often. Laws of Hope. Activate to heal her for 20% of her maximum health over 5 seconds. So basically a mini fountain on command. Pretty nice. And every 10 regeneration globes that you pick up increases the heal by 5%. So in quick match games where you don't have a healer, you need a way to sustain. Laws of Hope is a very good option. And if there isn't a lot of right clicking like at all, you might as well pick it up. The quest from the regeneration globes is pretty decent. I don't think about it too much. Pick up the globes whenever you can. Don't go killing yourself out there for them, but if you can, put a little bit more emphasis on it, and then suddenly start healing 35% of your health, 40% of your health in the late game. That is pretty good. Better than Divine Fortress. And another reason I don't like this talent is because it kind of overlaps with Zealous Glare. Like, this gives you protection against physical damage. And hence, you don't really need a physical armor. And besides, it comes from basic attacking. You need to get in range before this starts applying. Either way, Zealous Glare is your go-to against right-click type teams. Laws of Hope, if there isn't, or there's a overwhelming amount of poke damage. You need more healing. Level 4. Generally speaking, level 7 tends to be the power-up for most heroes, but level 4, Johanna has some of the best level 4 options in the entire game. And this is her real power spike. Subdue. This, oh my god, it's so good. Hitting 2 or more heroes at the same time with Punish increases the slow to 80%. The slow does not decay. So initially, when you hit somebody with a punch, you get them a nasty 6% slow. But it usually lasts a half a second before it decays to something more reasonable, like 30 or 10%. This does not decay over the whole 2-second duration. And furthermore, it gets upgraded to 80%. That is a 70% slow difference between baseline Q and upgraded Q at the last second. You can literally root people in place for 2 seconds. It really feels like that. 80% slow. I think this is the nastiest slow in the game. I don't think there's a single thing that's 90% in this game. So you just upgraded your Q, which is, by the way, a trivial requirement. Hitting 2 heroes is a very easy thing to do as Johanna. Every time you run in with Condemn in your trait, you're always pulling in at least 2 heroes. More than that, I dare say. And then you apply a nasty slow to all of them. It happens all the time. And you don't even need your W. It's a common enough scenario. You can hit multiple heroes, if you do the trick that I described to you, that you move to the side, and then you hit everything in a 210 degree in front of you. That arc will hit somebody. And then you just put on the nasty slow in the game. Furthermore, there's a quest associated with it. If you hit 4 heroes at the same time, a trophy basically, it will always slow by 80%, even if you hit 1 target. It's a huge upgrade, and if you pull it off, you basically won the game. But don't work hard for it. The baseline talent, you don't even need a quest. Like, you can completely erase that section of it. It will still be picked all the time. But the fact that it exists there means, hey, if you so happen to be fighting an enemy team, maybe you could pull off a big team fight like level 10 or something like that. Everybody's clumped up together for the first objective or something like that. You have the opportunity to do it. If the enemy team is clumped together, put it in the back of your mind, but don't overcommit for it, and it is what it is. But if you pull it off, you basically won the game. If not, don't matter. Just use it like how the talent is built to. Pull multiple heroes together, slam them with the Q, make sure that's at least 2 heroes, and then you root them in place. And this is why I say that Johanna has a 4-second root. You go in, you stun them for a quarter second, that interrupts their commands. You stun them with your ultimate, that's another second and a half. You slow them all by 80% for 2 seconds. You keep them in place for 4 seconds. If there's any hard-hitting abilities from your team coming in, it's going to keep them locked down. So good. It secures kills. It guarantees kills. Johanna has little lethality in that. And that's also another thing. Sure, she doesn't do too much damage, but her lethality is kind of lacking until she has Blessed Shield. Subdue gives that to her at level 4. And until the end of the game, she can always kill somebody because of this talent, if she has at least one person backing her up. Eternal Retaliation. Kind of an interesting talent, but I like it a lot. When you pull enemies with your W, you mark them for 10 seconds. If you right-click them, you'll refund 10 mana and the cooldown of your W by 1 second for the mark when you expend the mark. But if you expend the mark on a minion, it instantly kills them. That's pretty good. And Johanna has shockingly good wave clear for a tank. Her W hits everything, her Q hits everything, her E hits everything. And as the game goes on, her numbers go up. She starts to one-shot waves. But at level 4, if you really needed to, or Johanna is like this second tank pick kind of situation, Eternal Retaliation allows you to play a offlane role, which is really weird. Almost like a Blaze, but not as oppressive as him because she is unable to do mercenary camps, and her wave clear kind of comes at a big cost because it forces you to go away from subdue or hold your ground. Still though, I think Eternal Retaliation is a very strong talent if the game calls for it. Because if you're the only tank, which is usually the case, unless they're playing in the pro leagues where they intentionally pick 2 tanks, you're sacrificing a big presence. You not being with your team dramatically increases the likelihood that they die and also reduces the odds that they score a kill by themselves. You really need to be with your team. Eternal Retaliation gives you like a little bonus. If you ever get the opportunity to be a solo laning for some XP, but yeah, it's kind of like a tricky. It's a really good talent, but it's just ill suited for your game plan as Johanna. It is what it is, but you'll recognize the game when you see it. Nazebo, Asmodan kind of shenanigans, and then it's like, okay, there's no way I'm ever gonna score a fair team fight against them 5v5 style. I have to pick up a little bit of wave clearing, and this is where it comes in. Hold Your Ground increases the shield of your trait by 40% and reduces cooldown by 2 seconds. This is massive. Really, really good talent. I really like this. especially if you go into something like Falling Sword, where you have a more of a defensive playstyle, where you're, instead of you initiating, rather it's you counter-engaging, it's super good for that purpose. Because you don't need the initiation of Blessed Shield, and you don't need the CC as much, but rather you need to be like a formidable tank on the front line to stall away your opponents. It's a very good upgrade to your trait. Excellent. Like, it is incredible at giving you substantial amounts of survivability. And it ensures that your Unstoppable lasts longer, which makes it even harder to kill her. In that 4-second period, she really is invincible. I just don't like the fact that it sacrifices Subdue, and I prefer picking up Subdue because I know for a fact, if I initiate, I'm going to score a kill. Always, with Subdue. Without it, my lethality goes down dramatically. Yeah, I'm tougher to kill, who cares? I can't win a game if I can't kill the enemy heroes to kill the forts and the core. Still though, if you're playing a more defensive-oriented Johanna, and your team doesn't need as much hard setup, like the power of Subdue really, instead they want just a presence that's unflinching on the front line, like a Sergeant Hammer or Vala. They don't care about you slowing, but they care about you existing on the front line. Yeah, hold your ground is good. Level 7. Really disappointing talent tier for her. It's actually kind of shocking. Anyways, Q applies a 35% healing reduction modifier on everything you hit. And if you basic attack them, it refreshes it. Pick this up against Whitemane, pick this up against Johanna, pick this up against Alex Straza, Rhaegar to a certain degree, maybe Brightwing. But I'm not too big of a fan of it because it misses out on Conviction, which is the other level 7 talent. And I think that's much better. I also like it against Cho'Gall because it's 2 heroes with a lot of healing. If you reduce it substantially, it makes it much easier to kill them. It's a not bad talent, kind of okay, but healing reduction is kind of whatever until you have a very specific team that does a lot of healing, in which case it does become kind of strong. Johanna is one of the few tanks that has access to healing reduction, which is pretty cool. But aside from that, it's whatever, really. It increases your lethality just a little bit, but it really nukes your initiation. You don't have as much initiation without the power of Conviction. Conviction gives you 10% movement speed at all times. Boring, staple, but it's good. And then it's increased up to 20% whilst your W is charging up. Here's the problem with your W. If you cast it too soon, and the enemy heroes just decide to walk away from you, you never hit them. There has to be a speed difference between you. Either you're faster than normal because of some sort of source, or the enemy team is slowed from some other source, and then you can move in. Or they're already in front of you, in which case they can't get away from you in time. Conviction allows you to close the gap. And this is a huge difference. Without this talent, you feel like you're slow as bricks. But with this, you have reliable initiation with your W. And when you have reliable initiation with your W, that leads into a Subdue, and now you just kill the enemy team. What a small difference that this 20% makes. But that 1 second of you moving faster than average, especially when you put up your trait, people don't anticipate it. Like, they think they're safe from Johanna, and then you start charging in with this. And they can't, and they realize that, oh, Johanna's coming in fast. I need to knock her back. Too late. You have your Unstoppable on already. Now, generally speaking, there's speed charge here. I say charge in. There's literally a charge talent here, but I think Conviction is the best talent of the tier. Even though it's extremely boring, it gives you a lot of durability. It also allows you to escape situations. You're faster than the enemy team at 10% movement speed. It just gives you presence in the team fight. You can walk around anywhere you like, and you're going to catch up or get away from a situation. And if you're trying to escape the enemy team, you can press W. It gives you like that little bit of speed up, and it helps you a little bit when getting away. But more importantly, though, Steed Charge is more so mobility focused. You activate it to give yourself a mount for 4 seconds. It will not be dismounted by damage, but it will be dismounted by crowd control. If you want a hot tip, you can press Iron Skin, you can press W, and then you can press Steed Charge. You will have the Unstoppable, so you cannot be stopped by anything. The charge is unstoppable, so you're moving at 30% speed. Your W is like a self-buff. It's not going to interrupt the mount, but you're about to pull them in after a second delay, which is kind of cool. And you're just moving into the enemy team at a faster rate. Also, passively, your trait duration increases by 2 seconds. So if you're against a very strong CC team, you might go hold your ground into Steed Charge, and that gives you an unbelievable shield for 6 seconds on effectively a 14-second cooldown. Pretty decent. But Steed Charge is very difficult to work with because it dismounts you after that 4-second period, and you can't mount up right away afterwards, which is kind of annoying. If you need to escape, Steed Charge can do that. If you need to initiate, Steed Charge can do that just a little bit. It's not as good because it relies upon you having your traits in order to initiate. Because, if you get crowd control, you get dismounted, and then it's whatever. You don't have a level 7 talent anymore. Conviction, though, it's always in play. Although as boring as it is, you need to realize Johanna has no mobility whatsoever. She needs Falling Sword, and I tend to think it's not as good, so I don't pick it up, which means I'm stuck with 0 mobility. All of this initiation power, but very little speed. Conviction breaks the rule and gives you something completely unfair. You become as dangerous as a garrosh. It's great. Pick up Conviction. I've already described my thought process. Blessed Shield is your standard go-to. It also works as a very good ability interrupter. Say there's a Mosh, Gul'dan, Rain of Fire. Okay, that's a bad example, but White Mane is doing her thing. Phoenix is doing his thing. Any sort of channeled ability, Blessed Shield is just a perfect answer because you don't need to hit them with the initial one. In fact, you can hit somebody completely different. It will bounce to the other guy, and then that mini stun is enough to stop it, which is great. Falling Sword tends to be a reactive or really balls to the wall initiation where you try to do it on the entire enemy team, but I prefer Blessed Shield for that purpose because there's a level 20 upgrade that really makes it a crowd stopper. I've spoken to my reasoning. Blessed Shield is just a all reliable, flexible ultimate. It lets you do everything. Level 13 is a damage tier for Johanna, and she has some good options. Roar. Increase the damage of your Q by 50%, and the bonus is increased to 150% if you hit 2 enemy heroes, at least. It gives you a substantial amount of burst damage. The damage you put out with this is actually respectable. People sleep on this now. I think it's better than what's advertised here, because if you initiate and then you need to kill them right away, Roar just does that job better. And it gives you good weight clear too. Like, solid. Very good. And yeah, I just like the talents. Like, it does a lot of burst damage. And generally speaking, burst damage is better than sustained damage because if you alpha strike and you kill an enemy hero, that means you're 5v4, and then it gets much easier to mop up the rest of the floor. If you might kill one of their enemy team, if you have stronger sustained damage after 5 seconds, but that's 5 seconds where they're still doing stuff on the field. And the team fight gets a lot more messy and 50-50 coin flip. But if you initiate, you kill a target, like, it's 100% win rate, really. You can't go wrong with it. Roar just plays into that so well. I think it's a good talent. Holy Fury. Deal 15 damage per second to nearby enemies. Each hero hit by your W increases the damage by 40%. Trash tier talent. I think Holy Fury would be a lot better if the base damage were higher and the multiplier was smaller. You turn out with the same amount of damage, but it's more useful when you hit less heroes or you're fighting mini waves or mercenaries where the burn damage is substantial. The 15 damage is just too low for this to be reliable. And it's not as good as a sustained damage alternative because Blessed Hammer is much better at that job. Let's move on from Holy Fury. There's not much to talk about. It's not a very good talent. Blessed Hammers. 30-second cooldown, free extra ability that you add to your hotbar. Activate to create 2 hammers that spiral outward from Johanna. It moves in this strange clockwise formation, and it moves outwards. It's kind of hard to hit. Don't think about hitting it. Just let it run. It'll deal damage whenever it can. And it deals decent damage. And you can have an unlimited amount of hammers that's flying about because you activating the ability will create 2 hammers. Every third basic attack against enemy heroes will release a hammer by itself, naturally. So you'll be flying out hammers all the time. And this deals a lot of damage in the team fight. If there's any heroes that depend on them not being hit to activate a certain effect, or stealth heroes, like for example, they want to be out of combat, Blessed Hammer might tag them and suddenly, you just dealt damage to them without being anywhere near them, and then they're a little bit encumbered because of that. Blessed Hammer just gives you a lot of sustained damage. You'll be right-clicking somebody, and every third hit, the hammer almost guarantees hit on whatever it is you're looking at. So it gives you that extra 65 damage per 3 hits, which is not too bad. And then if you potentially hit other heroes, it just increases your overall damage in the fight. Another important aspect is when you damage enemy heroes with your basic abilities, you will reduce the cooldown of Blessed Hammer. So how do you use this? You start the fight, you Blessed Hammer, and then you use your abilities, your entire roster of abilities. You'll have a second round of Blessed Hammer activation to go through, and then you'll have a third one as the team fight goes on. And all the while, you'll be right-clicking. And when you're right-clicking, you'll be tossing out an additional bonus hammer every so often. There is no limit to the number of hammers. You pressing the ability gives you 2 hammers, and you right-clicking will give you hammers on every third hit, like a Maiden. Pretty good. And yeah, if you hit 5 heroes with your shield glare, even though it's not doing anything and the blind is whatever against a certain team comp that doesn't care about blinds, you're still reducing the cooldown of this by 12 seconds. Like, it's good. So, when you're crowd controlling the whole enemy team, press Blessed Hammer, and then you'll have another round. Just keep spamming the ability, and keep right-clicking to take advantage of it. Typically, I go Blessed Hammer because it gives me more value. Otherwise, I pick up Roar if you're fighting like a very strong healer that likes to save people. The extra burst damage allows you to score a kill where you might miss it if you went Blessed Hammer. And also, if I play with Liming or heroes that depend on kill resets, giving me that upfront damage makes it easier to trigger the domino. And then from that point on, your damage dealers will supply whatever missed damage you would have had from Blessed Hammer. You know, it's more important that you're enabling your team. Again, you're the tank. You need to protect your team, you need to provide crowd control, and you need to enable them to do their job. I typically go Blessed Hammer because it's another form of dismounting and vision control and all that jazz, which is an extra bonus on top of that. 16 has some interesting choices, but I tend to gravitate towards one. Shrinking Vacuum. Condemn reduces the damage dealt by heroes pulled by it by 30% and slows them by 30% for 3 seconds. This used to be a trash tier talent, but it got buffed to 333 across the board, which makes it pretty good, actually. I like this a lot against Cho'Gall, for example. Or on games where I don't have a lot of shield glare value, or I picked up Laws of Hope, for example, in which case Shrinking Vacuum becomes a pretty good talent, because that means you're fighting mages, and that huge 30% damage nerf is pretty noticeable. It's very good. It protects your team, it provides you extra initiation, all that jazz. Let's say that you went into Falling Sword and you picked up Hold Your Ground. You don't have the crowd control from your Q. Well, with Shrinking Vacuum, now your W provides, now you initiate with your W and it slows them. And you don't need to press Q until the slow wears off. Or your team is just about to hit them, and then that crucial 60% slow immobilizes them, and then they can score easy hits. Shrinking Vacuum just gives you all-rounder CC and damage reduction. It's pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. Holy Renewal, though, tends to be my default pick. Every enemy hero you hit with your blind reduces its cooldown by 1. So this 12-second cooldown ability will be reduced down to 7 if you hit all 5 enemy heroes. And on principle, it just gives you more cooldown reduction if you hit heroes. You know, it just reduces the cooldown flat. And if you have 2 charges, well, you press the ability twice, you have a third one ready to go. Just like that. And more importantly, every enemy hero you hit heals you for 5% of your maximum health. Again, you hit 5 heroes, 5 seconds shaved off your blind, which is a very strong ability by itself, and you heal yourself by 25%. You use your second charge from Zealous Glare, that's your 50% heal. You reduce the cooldown all the way down to 0 because you shaved off so much, but that's your 75% heal. And now the next one is 7 seconds cooldown. Oh my god, you see where I'm going with this. Holy Renewal is really strong for that. It gives you a shocking amount of durability. This is the only talent in this tier that gives you more durability. Granted, Shrinking Vacuum reduces the damage dealt by enemy heroes, but you don't care about that towards yourself. You care more so that you're nerfing the enemy heroes so that they don't deal as much damage to your team rather than yourself. And I do prefer that, but Holy Renewal just makes you invincible. It gives you a lot of sustain. Now, you can, if you picked up Shield Glare from Zealous Glare, oh my, it's really good. And if you don't have that, and the enemy team doesn't have much right-click damage, you don't want to blind them, play for Holy Renewal. You're aiming to hit as many heroes as possible to refund as much Blessed Hammer cooldown as possible and as much healing as possible from Holy Renewal. And then suddenly, you really become invincible. Yeah, you're spamming out your blinds all the time throughout a team fight. You really feel the healing. It lets you stay on the fight so much longer, and it requires less attention from your healer, which is pretty cool. Blessed Momentum is a personal favorite of mine. I don't get many opportunities to pick it up, but when I do, it's a pretty fun talent. Basic attacks grant 10% increased attack speed for 4 seconds. Very similar to Divine Fortress, you stack this up to 40% with your right clicks. And then every time you right click, it also reduces the cooldown of your abilities. QWE, not your trait though, or your ultimate. But it reduces the cooldown, which means you get to fly out more abilities. Granted, it's not synergistic with Shield Glare because you prefer Zealous Glare into Holy Renewal, but it gives you more condemns, it gives you more punishes. By itself, it gives you more Shield Glare. It's not as good as Holy Renewal, but it still gives you more of that and more of the other CC. You'll find that this is pretty effective in games where there's basically a lot of right-clicking. Wet noodle fights, basically. You versus like multiple tanks, nobody's dying ever. You might as well get the value off of this. You're going to get a lot more crowd control, and you're going to get a lot more damage out of it. So it's a pretty good mixture of the two. Shrinking Vacuum, if you go Falling Sword, I like to pick this up with that. Holy Renewal, if I go Shield Zealous Glare at level 1, which is my preferred. And even if I don't, I still pick this up because the healing is very good. And Blessed Momentum, it's a very slow burn kind of game where there's just not a lot of damage flying about. Level 20, Johanna has some amazing options across the board, so let's go over them. Heaven's Fury. So long as you're flying above some heroes, you'll be raining down holy bolts. You deal damage to enemy heroes, and you heal allied heroes. So whoever's underneath you, they either take damage or they get healed. And it's to everybody that's underneath the circle, enemies and heroes, allied heroes at the same time. Kind of like a Alex Straza Ruby on Wings, which is kind of interesting. Furthermore, every time you deal damage or heal, you'll be reducing the cooldown of this by 1 second. So if you do a massive ultimate where you're on top of the whole team plus enemy team, you're raining it down on everybody. You're going to do a full refund. Plus, that healing and damage is not to be slept on. It does a lot. It does a lot. And you're going to have a second one ready to go in the team fight, which is kind of crazy. And then it just repeats. Very strong upgrade. I pick Falling Sword because I'm thinking I want Heaven's Fury. That's how good of it. Now, granted, it's not to everything hit. The bolts, okay, so there is, how it works is it hits up to 3 allied heroes and up to 3 enemy heroes at the same time. If there's a 4th enemy hero, it's not going to hit them. If there's a 4th allied hero, it's not going to hit them. So your max value is if you jump over 3 allied heroes and 3 enemy heroes at the same time underneath you, that's its highest value. And besides, that is the best case scenario for, Falling Sword to begin with. You're providing unstoppable to your teammates, and you're threatening a stun and damage to your enemies if they stay in the area. And the Heaven's Fury just, it accentuates that. You have more of that, really. Yeah, it's a great upgrade to it. If you feel like it's underwhelming, check again. You have to play with it to feel the power. Radiating Faith. Ooh, I love this. First off, increase the number of enemies hit by Blessed Shield by 2. So now it hits 5 targets. The stun duration is increased to 1.75 seconds. Remember how this was initially 1.5? Now it's 1.75. Small difference, big difference when I tell you next. All targets hit are stunned for the maximum duration. So you can hit all 5 enemy heroes for 1.5 seconds stun. Wow. I tell you, it's a 4-second route on the entire enemy team. This is it again. And yeah, if you're fighting 5v5s and the enemy team is clumping and, it's your standard traditional fair play, honorable 5v5, Johanna does great into those, this is the kicker. And it gives you tremendous team fight presence. Say the stun is going to be huge and there's lots of opportunities where the enemy team just is together. The bounce travels faster than the initial projectile, believe it or not, which makes this shred through a team like nothing. You initiate, like you see the enemy team just minding their own business. You initiate, and then you charge in, you W, you Q, 4-second route on everybody around you. You stun them for the 2 seconds, they can't do anything. You charge in, you give them a big slow, and now you trade. Because they're stunned to begin with, your initiation is hassle-free. Also, pro tip. Now that the stun duration is maximized on bounce targets, it's very viable for you to bounce it off a secondary target and then use the bounce to go onto the targets because it's a heat-seeking projectile. You could miss with your initial cast. It's perfectly fine. It happens to me all the time. But you can make it guaranteed by targeting a minion or targeting a fort that they might be hiding behind. you bounce the shield off of it, and then it auto-targets whoever is next to it. And then it chain reacts into the next heroes. Sure, you're stunning 4 heroes instead of 5, but that's the winning move right there. And it's guaranteed too. Like, it's amazing. Like, Radiating Faith, if you see, like, Zeratul just, he's taunting you, he's being fast, he's being dodgy, maybe he dodges a few shields. Good on him. Well played. He steps anywhere close to a minion, a summon, a fort, a structure, he's dead. Because the bounce always finds him. You can miss the initial projectile, you can miss the bounce because the game auto-acquires it for you. And then if there's any other heroes next to them, it bounces them to, oh my god, it's great. So Radiating Faith not only increases the odds of you hitting your ultimate, which is strong to begin with, it increases its power 3 ways, which makes it an unbelievable powerhouse. Yeah, this thing is the Teamfight Ultimate, and it's guaranteed to win you the game. Like, it's amazing. Great upgrade to the ultimate. And this is why I like Blessed Shield, by the way. It gives you the initiation, and then it gives you even stronger initiation at level 20. And at that point in the game where it's very important to have strong initiation, you really feel the power of it. Indestructible. Upon taking fatal damage, Johanna gains a shield equal to her maximum health for 4 seconds. It has a 2-minute cooldown. It doesn't give you unstoppable, but it gives you a righteous 6,000 strong shield to prevent you from bursting down. I tend not to pick this because when am I ever dying on Johanna? There is a game that, there is that much damage where you get burst down. Indestructible can give you a lot of value because at that point, if Johanna is dying quickly, then the 4-second shield is going to give you a lot of value. Otherwise, Johanna tends to die slowly and by herself, not because she gets focused down by the team. And in such a circumstance, Indestructible doesn't give you that much value because the enemy team can wait out the 4-second cooldown and then they find a Johanna at 0 health. Unless you have, Holy Renewal and you're healing underneath that. Let's go, baby. Again, I'm a huge sim for that talent. It's great. Anyhow, I don't think Indestructible is very good because it plays off of a losing strategy that you get bursted down and then you go for it. Granted, if that is the strategy that the enemy team is doing, repeatedly targeting you down, and you play for the Indestructible, you walk in and you have Indestructible available, you're not afraid of going back out, yeah, do it, it works. But that's a very niche case scenario. It doesn't happen enough that I really want it because her other level 20s are just bonkers good. The source of you winning in the game is not through you dying. It's through you crushing the enemy team first. That's the way I philosophize in the game, and it just works better. It just works better. It gets me wins. Indestructible does not give me wins. It prevents losses, really. Blinded by the Light. Activates to give all nearby allied heroes, including yourself, a shield equal to 25% of their maximum health for 3 seconds. Furthermore, if you hit enemies with your E, you reduce the cooldown of this by 8 seconds. Oh, so yet another ability that has its cooldown reduced by the fact that you're spamming your abilities, especially your E. So what's that? Blessed Hammer gets reduced by all of your abilities, including your E. Holy Renewal gets reduced by your E. Blinded by the Light gives you cooldown reduction based off of your E. And then you have the second charge of Zealous Glare. And then you have Holy Renewal, which is also reducing the cooldown of your E by itself. You remember how I said you could triple cast E? Well, you could triple cast Blinded by the Light. You press this once, you start Eing, 40 seconds shaved off. The second Blinded of the Light comes out. You shave off another 40 seconds. A third one's going to come up. That's insane. You can give your whole team an Ariel shield, like her Shield of Hope, at full health, multiple times in the team fight. Oh, that's good. In a game where I feel like Radiating Faith just doesn't give a lot of value, like let's say I only have one priority target, Cho'Gall, or like a carry or a healer, and I have easy access to them, I don't really care about the bounces that much, and I don't really need the accuracy boost per se. It doesn't give me that much value. That's when I might consider Blinded by the Light, because it gives my team more durability, and it's really good. And if you remember the second part that you reduce the cooldown with your E, you'll find that this is actually blatantly overpowered. It really is. I like it a lot. I like Radiating Faith on principle, but Blinded by the Light is a close favorite. And do not feel bad about picking up this talent because it's really strong. And again, remember, please use any abilities that appear on your hotbar, your 1, 2, and 3 key, use them first before you use the rest of your abilities, so that you refund all the cooldowns. And yeah, aim big, aim as many heroes as you can with your E, even against teams that don't have much. If they don't have a lot of right clickers, they tend to have a lot of AoE magic damage, and that's where Blinded by the Light really comes into play. And again, we hark back to the talent. Even though you're fighting a team that doesn't use much right clicks, you still find so much value off of Zealous Glare because of Holy Renewal and Blinded by the Light. Because in such a circumstance, there's a lot of AoE magic damage. This is when the 25% against all heroes really comes into play. And I've saved so many lives. The 25% shield is big. It saves so many people from the verge of death because they're getting focused down. It's so good. So good. Also, Radiating Faith is probably the best counter-engage tool in the entire game. People don't anticipate it, and then it just shreds the team. And then, yeah, it's now Euroball arc. I love it. So Johanna has a lot of great options, so let us talk about her right here. So, talents. What are my preferred options? My try-hard meta build: Zealous Glare, Subdue, Conviction, Blessed Shield, Blessed Hammer, Holy Renewal, and then it's a flex pick on 20. It tends to be Radiating Faith. If not, Blinded by the Light is a very close choice. Why? I've told the combo already. Zealous Glare just does everything that you want to, so you're already picking that up. And I don't feel bad about missing out on Laws of Hope because Holy Renewal is giving me the healing that I'm playing for late game in terms of Laws of Hope. And it does it at a faster rate as well. This does it once in the fight, and then you need to wait 40 seconds. Granted, it's good and sustained, but in team fights, you feel the difference between Zealous Glare and Holy Renewal. It feels better in terms of healing and keeping yourself alive. Also, it's independent of you grabbing globes. So if you're in a bad game, you tend to take less globes because the enemy teams are taking more because they have priority. Zealous Glare is more, on principle, it's just better. Subdue gives you substantial amounts of lethality. Johanna, without this talent, is a different hero. You need this to kill people. And it feels great because it guarantees a kill. Conviction gives you initiation so that you can apply the Subdue and overall initiation because Johanna lacks mobility. This gives you a clutch amount, just enough to get into range. Blessed Shield because it's an on command. Like, let's say I want to crowd control somebody. Falling Sword is not going to do that to somebody right in front of me. If I need a stun on demand right now, Blessed Shield. It just works. I tend to go Blessed Hammer. Sometimes I go Roar, but I usually go Blessed Hammer because it gives me more value. It gives me more damage. Johanna has low amounts of damage. You really feel the extra sustained damage from Blessed Hammer. Holy Renewal tends to be my default. Sometimes Shrinking Vacuum, but not too often. And then Radiating Faith, as I described. This is her meta build, her best build. It lets you carry games on your back. Otherwise, you might find something like Laws of Hope, Hold Your Ground, I don't know, Sins Exposed if you really want to, but Conviction is still pretty good, or Steed Charge because you have Hold Your Ground. And then you go Falling Sword, and then you can pick up whatever you want on 13, it tends to be Blessed Hammer. And then you pick up Shrinking Vacuum. This gives her like backline penetrating potential. She can get into the enemy backline, guaranteed, and then she can really mess them up. She deals reliable, good sustained damage. The enemy team can't get away from her, and she's applying a lot of CC. And then lastly, Heaven's Fury. If you go Falling Sword, it's really bad when you don't pick up the upgrade, so you're kind of forced into it. But yeah, that's build number 2. It's not that great, but build 1, honestly, it's super boring because you pick up the same choices every single game, except there might be 1 or 2 flex picks in 13 and 20, but aside from that, it is so cookie cutter strong, I can't even describe it. It's immensely powerful. So what's the combo? What do you want to do as Johanna? And as Johanna, you want to be providing peeling and support for your team. And it's going to be like that for most of the game. You plant in bushes, you keep eyes on the enemy team, you start fights by trading, usually, because crowd control tends to come your way. Sometimes you don't need to, so if you can hold off on it, it's really good for you to have it, as the fight gets hot. That's a really good thing. Then you condemn, and then you step aside, see if you can maximize your Q radius, so you hit as many heroes as possible with Punish to guarantee you get Subdue value, and then you go from there. Alternatively, if the enemy team is woefully out of position, you can do an immediate punish by Blessed Shielding. Now, they're locked in place in a bad spot. You're approaching them quickly with Condemn and Punish combo. Your team sees the stun, and they're already going to be starting to engage. And then you have them locked down. It's a guaranteed kill on whoever it is you found. Say the healer stepped up a little bit too close, or the really important Vala that's been giving you a headache the whole game. The Blessed Shield does the job. And then if not that, if you're able to engage, you can W, Q, and then as soon as the 2-second slow is over, you can Blessed Shield, keep them locked down in place. I love it. It's especially strong when you combo with like a mage AoE damaging ult. Dragon Strike from Hanzo works super well with Johanna, or Black Hole, or Feasting Maw, for example. These damaging ultimates that need setup work super well with Johanna. She walks in, she Qs everybody. If there is a risk of, like, let's say, somebody jumping out with mobility, you want to Condemn, Blessed Shield on the target that's about to use their mobility right away. Genji, Hanzo, these type of heroes don't care about the slow, but they can jump out of it easily. You keep them stunned instead, so they can't cast their ability. And then after that, as soon as your secondary targets have their 3/4 of a second stun expire, that's when you punish. And now it's a 3-second route rather than 4, but it's more guaranteed to keep them in place, and then the big damage comes. Yeah, that is basically your basic game plan. And then you hold on to your E. You use this as soon as you take retaliatory right-click damage from somebody, especially the right-clicking assassin or melee assassin. And then you want to keep a second eye. Johanna can't really turn around and save her team like right away. Blessed Shield can do that. You know, if a Zeratul is right-clicking your backline, you can't do anything about it, but you can Blessed Shield. That's one thing you could do. But if not that, you might need to hold down the front line and then glare backwards, because the blind is super long range. You can reach anybody in the game with it pretty easily. It doesn't do much damage, but that blind prevents them from taking more damage. It really keeps your teammate alive. And if you do it twice with Zealous Glare, you can keep somebody invulnerable for 3 seconds if the only source of damage they're taking is right-click damage. So that's what she does. Let's talk about heroes that she synergizes super well with. Any mage works really well. Jaina, Ring of Frost, or her base kit on its own. Not so much Li Ming, but a little bit. Tassadar especially, with this black hole, is especially devastating. Kael'thas, combo, everything under the sun works really well. You'll also really appreciate the fact that your slow plus condemn makes it super easy for him to land a tornado, and then that tiny 1/4 second stun is enough to secure a kill. Chromie, Kael'thas, Kel'Thuzad, Phoenix ultimates, especially both of his ultimates, super well. Hanzo, Dragon Strike, was this Ravenous Spirits. You can even go into something like Hinterland Blast and Sulphurous Smash. These ultimates get a lot stronger because you drag everybody right next to each other. It guarantees a big multi-man hit. Also, Leap, phenomenal combo. Something like Contagion, if such a thing happens. Yeah, like it's just good. So many heroes synergize with Johanna. And then, yeah, any hero under the sun appreciates Johanna. Healer ultimates especially super strong. If I had to choose a favorite healer, I'd probably go with Malfurion, because AoE roots is actually killer good. Like, it's shockingly good. Otherwise, Anduin is good. It gives you a little bit of mobility, you know, if you need to get out of things. Plus, he provides CC. Plus, he provides Light Bomb, which you can also deliver with Falling Sword, which is an awesome combo. Deckard loves you. Like, it's insane. Whitemane loves you. It's crazy good. And, yeah, Tyrande is also really good. Johanna has a lot of CC, but a little bit lacking on the lethality. Tyrande gives her armor shredding and an additional stun, which usually leads into a kill. Which is pretty good. What can I say? Johanna's great. Play her. You might not get much opportunity in Stormly because people are aware that she is overpowered and you can't really get away with it. But either way, if she passes the ban phase and you are the tank player, there's no reason not to play Johanna. She's really good. And yeah, that is all I have to say. Goodbye, my friends.